A very good evening to you. Welcome along to Team Talk, the show that brings you the biggest sporting news, views and incredible stories from across Kent. Here's how we line up. Mixed emotions for Kent's football clubs at the weekend. We'll bring you all the results and reaction.
Like 2 points drop, really. Defending very well throughout the game in difficult conditions. Both sides obviously dealt with the conditions quite well.
Preparing for the Paralympics, we meet the Kent cyclists trying to get to Tokyo.
Being here has most importantly given me confidence because I'm actually able to do a lot of things normally, or what I like to call normal.
And Coles changes his goals. The KM Group's Matt Panting joins me in Best of the Back Pages to discuss the departure of Matt Coles from Kent to Essex.
Bit of an enigma really last season for Kent. He flattered to deceive at times, but he's got that potential, and at 27 he's still potentially got his peak years ahead of him. If he can sort himself out and get to top form, then he's going to be a decent player on the county circuit.
All of that to come, but as ever, we'll start with a look back on the weekend's football action. Results and reaction to come, but first up, goals from the National League. Draw specialists Ebbsfleet United hosted struggling Barrow at Stonebridge Road. A recent resurgence had seen Fleet climb the table after a shaky start, and they got the start they wanted here, courtesy of a thumping strike from Aaron McLean. Fleet controlled most of the game up until Barrow introduced former Sutton man Betsenti Gomez. And with a little less than 20 minutes left, the substitute found the equaliser. Sloppy defending from the home side allowed Gomez to nip in ahead of Nathan Ashmore.
Betsenti Gomez has got in there! And Betsenti Gomez has equalised for the Bluebirds!
Fleet didn't let their heads drop, but for Barrow, their goalkeeper let the ball drop, allowing Andy Drury to restore the home side's advantage. Darren McMahon's team refused to let the Bluebirds back in it this time. A couple of minutes later, Danny Kedwell squared for Jack Powell to make the game safe. The gloss was taken off the win in stoppage time, however, as Gomez's deflected shot went through the legs of Ashmore for a consolation. 3 points was all that mattered in the end for Ebbsfleet, their 10th, 2 points off the playoffs. Dover were hoping to put midweek cup disappointment behind them as they hosted promoted Maidenhead. So often this season, Ryan Bird's head has proved decisive for the Whites, and it seemed like it was heading that way again as he headed his way past Cole Petney. Late goals have saved Dover a few times this season, but it was to be the undoing of them on this occasion. Rennie Steer's inventive run set up Jake Hyde to tap in with the penultimate kick of the game. The Whites stay second in the table, having lost 2 points, but having potentially gained some valuable lessons.
We spoke about in there in the change room about managing games late on. Obviously we went 1-0 up. There was a few minutes to go. They stuck an extra player up top to make it difficult for us, and we just got to learn from that. We've got to manage the game better. Some of our clearances didn't actually get into the channels like they should have done.
Storm Bryan was generally kept at bay across the country, but it did get the better of Maidstone's game at AFC Fylde. In the National South, old foes Chelmsford got the better of Dartford again by 1-0. It was a complete mixed bag for our Bostik Premier sides. Margate conceded a stoppage-time equaliser at Harlow. Folkestone produced a 5-star display at Leiston, but Tunbridge lost at home to Tooting and Mitcham. In the Bostik South, Faversham needed a win after a bad start to the campaign that saw them in the relegation places, and they made the worst possible start as Omar Lawson gave VCD Athletic the lead at Salters Lane. Ray Turner must have got the hairdryer out at half-time because the hosts were a different side in the second half, Luke Griffiths poking home an equaliser minutes after the restart. And Griffiths had his second just 5 minutes later, lashing home with the outside of his right boot. Oliver Lee clinched the points with 20 minutes to play, nodding home from a corner. In South London, Ashford were at Carshalton Athletic, and the Kent side were in trouble after only 3 minutes. Raheem Sterling Parker won the penalty, but Aaron Lee Wharton guessed correctly to save Jordan Cheadle's spot kick. It was the start of a lively first half, and it was no surprise when the first goal eventually came. Sterling Parker was again fouled in the box, and with a change of penalty taker came a change of result as Sterling Parker dusted himself down to score. The Carshalton forward's impressive start to the season has mirrored that of his famous namesake, and he was involved again for the second, unselfishly laying the ball back for Mikael Miller, whose finish was precise. Ashford gave themselves a route back into the game with 13 minutes to play as Max Waters slotted past Billy Bishop. Tommy Bradford had been a live wire for the hosts all afternoon and got the goal he deserved with 5 minutes to play. That strike knocked the stuffing out of any Rocky Balboa-esque Ashford comeback, and they were left on the canvas 3 minutes later as Ricky Corboa found the same corner of the net for a fourth. The scoring wasn't done there, however. It's a shame this free kick didn't find the net, but from the rebound Matthew Day headed in consolation on a bad day for the nuts and bolts. Elsewhere, Herne Bay had a Saturday to forget at high-flying Lewis, and you can second that for Ramsgate at Phoenix Sports. Sittingbourne left it late to clinch a point against Chipstead to continue their unbeaten run. Thamesmead lost in the last minute at home to Cray Wanderers, whilst Hythe picked up a decent point away at Walton Casuals. Now you heard there that Sittingbourne picked up a point at the weekend, and it was the first time in more than 9 hours they conceded after an excellent start to the season. They sit second in the Bostik South table, and coach Warren Chambers joins me to chat about their great start to the campaign. Warren, thanks for joining us. Firstly, we'll start with the game of the weekend. One apiece. You finally conceded a goal. What happened?
Yeah, from a set piece. Very disappointed to concede after 7 minutes. But just towards the end, we scored in injury time, and I think we would have taken a point midway through the second half, the way the game was going. So a little bit disappointing not to pick up 3 points, but another point on the board. And
second in the table, you were just speaking to me then, you only had 2 players at the start of the season after such a big overhaul. You must be delighted with the way it started.
Yeah, Nick's done a great job, the manager, Nick Davis, in bringing the right calibre of players in, who've got the right attitude, want to learn the game, and want to do well and work as a team. We've got no stars there, and we just gelled right from the back. As you know, you mentioned, 9 hours of football without conceding a goal, and we're very good counter-attacking side with lots of pace, and we're scoring goals from all over the place, from midfield and centre forward. So yeah, going really well at the moment.
Tell us about the defence, because it's been an excellent defensive display so far from the Brickies. Why do you think they've been so resolute at the back?
I just think we've got a solid base at the back there. We've used 2 goalkeepers, so it's not the back 4 and 1 keeper. We've used people at full-backs, so it's probably a team of about 7 or 8 defenders. But the communication and the covering and talking is a lot better than it was last year, hence 9.5 hours.
And a lot of the talk in defence has been about Lex Allen, hasn't it? The young man who's gone on trial to Palace. Chelsea have been watching him. Do you think he can go all the way?
I had Lex in the youth team that I had many years ago, and there was always something about him, his passing ability. And he's been at Crystal Palace for a trial, and as I understand it, they like what they see. I think he's got all the attributes, good on the ball, 6'7", so certainly can head a ball. So yeah, the right coaching at a different level, I'm sure he could make it. Yeah.
Are you amazed at his rise, because he was playing in the Sheppey Sunday League of last season, wasn't he?
Yeah, he came for a trial with us and played in a friendly game in house, and Nick, myself and Tony liked what we saw, and the coach that had come in from Sheppey recommended him to us. And we said, yeah, let's take a look at him. And when he's had his opportunities for injuries, he's taken with both hands. So all credit to him for that.
Well, it's been a great start to the campaign for Sittingbourne. We'll chat a little bit more later on, Warren, but for the time being, thank you very much. Let's turn our attention to hockey now. Canterbury and Sevenoaks were looking for their first wins of the season in the men's Premier Division and experienced contrasting fortunes. Here's Harry Peets.
Sevenoaks hosted Brooklands at Hollybush Lane on Saturday afternoon. The Kent side were yet to pick up a point in the Premier Division, but went ahead early when Andrew Ross picked out the top corner from a penalty corner. The Oaks have conceded 16 goals this season, and the visitors added to that tally when they levelled on 20 minutes. David Flanagan reacted first from a penalty corner to smash home brilliantly on the turn. Sevenoaks held Brooklands at 1-1 until the hour mark, where Andrew Ross doubled his and the Oaks' lead. Another penalty corner, another smart finish from Ross. And he wasn't finished there. Just 3 minutes later, Ross completed his hat-trick with a bullet into the top bins, capping a perfect day for him and earning Sevenoaks their first ever Premier League points in their more than 100-year history. Elsewhere, Canterbury's struggles continued with a 6-1 defeat to title challengers East Grinstead. And Nick Bandurak scored a hat-trick as Holcombe edged out Surbiton. It was the same story for Canterbury's women, who lost 2-0 in their fixture, whilst Holcombe couldn't get the better of Surbiton in their Women's Premier Division match.
Harry Pete there looking back on the weekend's hockey action with Sevenoaks picking up their first victory of the campaign, and also, as we heard there, an excellent hat-trick from Nick Bandurak for Holcombe, who'll be looking to go all the way this campaign. Will certainly be keeping a very close eye on how the three Kent sides do in both the men and women's team. We've reached the end of the first half here on Team Talk. Still to come. Find out more about Kent paracyclist Matthew Robertson, who's hoping to ride his way into the 2020 Paralympics in Tokyo.
When I cracked it, you then start to understand what you really are capable of, and you don't listen to those people who say you won't be able to do that because, you can't really use your right side.
We'll be joined on the sofa by Matthew's strength and conditioning coach Mel Young to chat more about his progress. Matt Panting looks back on Gillingham's defeat to Northampton, and your Team Talk teaser this evening is asking how many medals did Team GB win in the cycling discipline at the 2016 Paralympic Games. We'll bring you the answer after the break. Welcome back to the second half of Team Talk. Before the break, we asked you how many medals did Team GB win in cycling during the 2016 Rio Paralympics. The answer was an excellent 21, 12 of them gold, which meant they finished top of the cycling medal tables. And staying with cycling, a teenager from Kent is hoping to swap the courses in the county for the tracks of Tokyo. Cyclist Matthew Robertson is gunning for the 2020 Paralympics, which will be held in the Japanese capital. He's currently working on his strength to help tackle the problems posed by his disability. I went to meet him.
Push that right heel right down. Push. Good. Okay. Step forward.
Power, determination and drive. 3 key ingredients to improve strength and 3 essential attributes for an athlete. For Team GB paracyclist Matthew Robertson, these 3 characteristics haven't come easily though, battling both mental and physical barriers as he aims for the 2020 Paralympic Games.
I have hemiplegia, which means I'm partly paralysed on the right side, and clearly that's going to affect how I ride. I guess it's mainly balance, so because you've got that indifference of muscle mass and your strength, it means that when you're trying to pedal, especially when I started off, I just couldn't do it.
In addition to cycling, Matthew works alongside strength and conditioning coach Mel Young to improve the weakness on his right-hand side. Because of his disability, his right shoulder can dislocate very easily and he has no feeling in his right leg. Despite those obstacles, his progress has been rapid.
It's extremely rewarding. I take a lot of videos just so I can always show him where he's come from, because he's very critical of himself, which most athletes are. And the improvement every single week, every single session, there's always that little bit. I think the last probably 3 months we've had real breakthrough of improvement in strength.
And with the increase in power has come Matthew's growth in his own self-belief.
Being here has most importantly given me confidence, because I'm actually able to do a lot of things normally, or what I like to call normal. So it has been difficult, and there have been moments where I really haven't wanted to do any of it because you look different than others. But when I cracked it, you then start to understand what you really are capable of, and you don't listen to those people who say you won't be able to do that because, you can't really use your right side.
His confidence born on the bike has now transferred over to his demeanour off the track as well.
I can hold things with the arm, as before I couldn't really get any grip in the hand, so I can now do things on my own and become more independent, because I've always wanted to be an independent person, and to progress in life you need to be able to do things on your own.
Now Matthew has gained confidence as well as power, Mel pinpoints the other two key ingredients as the qualities she's most impressed with.
Watching his determination and his drive to succeed, which is incredibly inspiring, but it's having those moments where it's kind of like being told, no, I can't do that, and then in my head I'm like, we'll find a way, definitely.
With that motivational mindset, Matthew is on the right track for a place at Tokyo in 3 years' time. And then he can swap power, determination and drive for inspire, celebration and thrive. Keilan Webster, KMTV. And to talk more about Matthew's progress, Mel Young joins me now. So Mel, we saw in the piece you spoke a little bit about the progress that Matthew has made. Just give us a little bit more insight into how much progress he has made since you first started working with him.
Yeah, sure. So it's been about 18 months. So you saw in the video there that when he first came, you know, his mobility, his kind of function of coordination and balance was quite restricted from the disability. So I kind of worked on that initial progress of the balance, coordination, being able to stabilise his movements a lot better. And you know, over the last year, that's kind of what we worked on. It's been the last 6 months we've really been able to progress on his strength, and that's been seen, you know, quite heavily in his racing. He's been able to really push on his times, and as you see that, you know, the weights he's now lifting, there was no way he was able to do that initially. So we've come a long way.
How crucial is the strength and conditioning side of cycling?
Oh, massively. I mean, you can cycle. You can, you know, do as many hours on a bike as much as possible, but it is crucial to get the joints and the muscles, and especially with the disability that Matthew has, to get the brain working in a way that the left and the right side are working in conjunction with each other, and to get the strength, the power, especially the track racing with the starts. Yeah, it's very important. Strength and conditioning is very important for all sports, but you know, cycling is definitely there.
And you said about him lifting those weights now. How impressive is it, not just considering where he started, but also the disability that he has as well?
It's really impressive. I mean, for anybody to be able to lift a certain amount of weight, if you haven't got the mobility or the movement within those joints, it's just not going to happen. I mean, technique is very important, so you're not piling a massive load of weight straight away, you're just going to get injured. But to start slowly, making sure, you know, we get the body moving in the correct manner, then we can progress and move those weights gradually up. You know, once you've got strength, then obviously power then comes into it, and that's what you need for the racing that he's going to be doing, especially for track racing, because you know that's where the sprints are. So yeah, it is vitally important in my own opinion, anyway.
We saw you spoke in the piece there about motivation, how motivated he is to do well. Just how far do you think he can go?
He can go as far as he wants to go. He's a very driven and very determined person. He's an amazing athlete to work with, an amazing person to work with. He's very particular. He can be a bit hard on himself sometimes, but that's what athletes do, because they're you know, if they want to get to the top, you have to be. But he works extremely hard. I mean, he trains up to about 18 hours a week, sometimes more, and we have to make sure that he does get recovery and rest time within that as well. But there is absolutely no reason why he can't, you know, get to the Paralympics. And, you know, that's his dream. And you know, he's got a great team around him. I'm a very small part of the training and coaching team that he has, and yeah, he could go all the way.
Well, it's incredibly inspiring, Mel. For the time being, thanks very much. More from Mel and Warren in a few moments' time, but it's now time for your best of the back pages with a look at what's making the sports news in Kent. Earlier this afternoon, I caught up with Kent Messenger sports editor Matthew Panting. Matt, we'll start with Gillingham, a 2-1 defeat at home to Northampton, and it was a bad end to what was a decent week up until then.
Yeah, exactly. Steve Lovell taken over now as caretaker manager, the third man in charge of Gills this season. Very good win at Peterborough, decent point against who were the leaders, Wigan. And then they played Northampton, one of the few teams below them in League One. Unfortunately, 2-1 defeat for the Gills, despite this goal from Lee Martin, which levelled things in the second half. Probably not what their performance warranted, but no points, and at the minute Gills need points. Did you think they were a bit unlucky? It was a couple of cracking goals from Northampton to win it, wasn't it? There was, yeah, two cracking strikes which you wouldn't associate with the weather that we had at the weekend, but two belters from Northampton, so fair play to them. But Gills, again, it's the goals, hard to come by. They scored 9 in 15 league games. They're the joint lowest goal scorers in the division, and until they sort that out, they're going to be at the bottom.
And a lot of fans were frustrated. He took Tom Eaves off and brought on Bradley Garmston. Has that change also damaged his chances as well as the result?
Well, I think one of the things that came out of the Peterborough win last weekend was how positive and forward-looking Jules were. Obviously played Sean Clare, who had been playing in the hole as a right back, so that was quite a positive impact that Steve Lovell had when he took over. As you say, taking off a striker and putting a left back, albeit left-sided player on, isn't really the most positive of things to do, and that could hinder him in the long run. You know, Paul Scully might look at that and think that's not possibly what he wants his manager to do. Steve, obviously, in the other hand, will be saying, well, that's how I thought we were going to get back into the game and get the equaliser. Wasn't to be for Jules, and he's saying they need goals.
A loss for Gillingham at the weekend, and in cricket, Kent have lost one of their seamers. Matt Coles has gone to Essex. How big a blow do you think it could be? Yeah,
it could be devastating, this one, in some respects. Matt Coles is a bit of an enigma, really, last season for Kent. He flattered to deceive at times, but he's got that potential, and 27, he's still potentially got his peak years ahead of him. If he can sort himself out and get to top form, then he's going to be a decent player on the county circuit. Obviously, at one time had England hopes. They've probably gone now, but Essex can certainly see some quality in there. Good with ball and bat. But last season for Kent, you'd probably say slightly underachieved.
You say he didn't have a great season last campaign. The one before that, I think he was the leading wicket taker in the One Day Cup. So he has got those qualities. Where do Kent go now in terms of looking for a replacement?
That was it. Well, that's the interesting makeup of their side. They've let a few bowlers go in the summer, in the close season. I think they were top heavy maybe in the summer with bowlers, not necessarily those that were in the first team, but they seem to have so many on the books. A few of those have now gone as well. So it does free up some money in the budget. And what will be interesting now will be their choice of overseas player. Sam Northey said last week that they're going to look at whether they go for one overseas player for the whole season, or if they go for what they did last season, bring 3-4 in just for a short period each time, just to give them a little boost as and when. It may be they go for one, and maybe it's a bowler that they go for now.
Well, we'll certainly be keeping a close eye in the winter period to see who Kent do bring in. Matt, thanks very much. It's almost full time here on Team Talk. Mel and Warren still alongside me. Mel, just quickly, where can people go if they want to get involved with Amazon 24?
So I'm based in Gillingham, Ingram Road, just up from the Strand. It's a little place called Proshaw Hall. But yeah, I don't just train athletes, I train anyone who wants to be trained. So I run ladies only strength programs, which has become a really good sort of scene for a little community of women to come and get strong and fit and healthy. And we do group fitness classes, and yeah, just come along and see what we do.
And Warren, in terms of the Brickies this season, what's the big goal for you guys?
Well, of course, the season's gone. We're sitting second. There's no reason we can't finish in the top two. But at the very least, we expect to be in the playoffs come April.
And just tell us about the couple of fixtures you got coming up.
Yeah, we're at home to Cray Wanderers, who are flying high in the South Division as well, so a bit of a tough game tomorrow night. And then we've got Merstrom in the equivalent to the FA Cup, the non-league version of the FA Trophy, at home on Saturday.
We'll be keeping a close track on the Brickies throughout the course of the campaign. Warren, Mel, thank you very much for joining us this evening. That's just about it from us here on Team Talk for this Monday evening. You can always follow us on Twitter using the handle at @KM_Team Talk. Good night.